La. Am I on? Our next teller is MaryGay Ducey. She grew up in New Orleans and then she moved to Berkeley. So you'll find a little bit of Southern charm in her and you'll find a whole lot of strangeness, which is what Berkeley, California is all about. She has told in very diverse places, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., the prison San Quentin, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Oh, man. That's way cool. Who wouldn't want to do that, MaryGay? That's way cool. She tells fairy tales, she tells stories of family and how quirky they are, and she tells stories of history, because MaryGay believes that people should be passionate about fairness with each other. And if you talk to her, that's exactly how she is. She believes in certain things, and she takes those passions about how we should treat each other, and she infuses them into her story. She is elegant, she is warm, she is passionate, and just a little bit quirky. She also has a book out about storytelling that's not here in our festival marketplace, but it's a book that teaches you about storytelling called A Crash Course in Storytelling. She can teach it, she can tell it. Please welcome MaryGay Ducey.
Yeah. Yeah. Short, you know. No, that's good. That's good. How nice to see you here. How nice of you to have the good taste to come to possibly the most fabulous group of strangers who are now family on the face of this wide earth. That's you. That's you. I'm going to tell you a kind of a true story. We all say that, you know. Because would we lie? Don't even. Don't even. But this one is kind of sort of true, pretty much true, actually. Truly is. And there's no underwear. Oh, yes, there is. There's underwear. That's right. You see how we work these things out. Themes emerge, get pulled down, and... Oh, heaven's sakes. My dad was he didn't know a lot about kids. I mean, like, nothing. He tried. You know, the thing about parenting is, it's always your fault. We've learned this as parents. It's sensible, it's all our fault. And he would say, it's my fault. However, he didn't have a lot going for him, because when something happened in the family, he was shipped off to military school at 7 years old. I know it. There was something going on in the family. I don't know if it's related, but his sister was just born. 7 years difference. They shipped him right out of town. There's a picture of my father at 8 years old, standing straight as he can be, tiny little person, and he has a wooden musket and a steely stare and big, big shoes. No smiles. Those men raised him at Kemper Military School in Missouri. So he didn't know a lot. How was he supposed to know? He just went home and his sister tortured him and he tortured her, and what was else to learn? Then he had them. You know, that's the thing about children. They just have a lot of work to do on us, for real. He tried to know about us, but he didn't know a lot. He really didn't. I think he thought the first one, that would be me. We had the perfect family. Dada, mommy, and moi. And then my sister came along. What were they thinking? Kind of that's the way he felt. So he came home, and in fact, he learned about his father and mother's divorce secondhand, not a close fam. He was on the train coming home, and it was a ways from Oklahoma City, which is where he's from, and somebody came up to him, upperclassman, naturally, and paused, and he said, "Too bad about your mother and father, isn't it?" And left. My dad thought, what is that? But when he got off the train, There was only one parent to meet him. They had divorced without telling him. They had. He had a lot to learn about children. When I was a little girl, about 07, funny, that's when my sister was born. And you know how you get a baby to go to sleep, don't you? Of course you do. It's not rock, it's drive the car. Huh? Nice and slow, around this corner, slow and easy, never braking much. And then you drive in the driveway and, hi, I'm awake. But it worked, he was trying. So my mother had a very serious infection after birth, my sister. And so she was very, very unhappy person. I was an exceedingly unhappy person. And my sister didn't have the sense not to be happy yet. So one night, we went on the usual drive with this child, this big in the back seat. She's about 3 months old, I think. And in those days, are there any kids here? Where are you? Oh, this is for you. This part is from a galaxy far, far away, when cars were about this big and they looked like ocean liners. And they had fins. And they had seats made out of the worst material on the face of the earth, synthetic in every way, and if you moved, you were right at the other end, back and forth. And there were no seat belts, but you could die anyway, because the minute your mother braked, she went, boom, and you were nearly garroted. It's dangerous to be in that passenger seat, as you well know. So here she was, sliding back, sliding forth in the back seat, and I was in the front seat. And my dad was driving across Lake Pontchartrain. If you've been to New Orleans, you know it's a long bridge. And I looked at him. You know, kids are fascinated, really. They're fascinated by physical anomalies. They are. My daughter's favorite boyfriend to my son was someone, who had a hook. Oh, he said, how cool is that? How cool is that? You know, physical anomalies. And then I looked over at my dad's wrist. He's left-handed, and so am I. And my dad had an enormous wart right here. I loved it. So strange. So yucky. Great. So I saw it all the time. And I was looking over at it while my sister was in the back. My dad was rolling, it was like an ocean line, rolling the car here to change lanes, rolling back like this to change another lane. And while he was doing it, I looked and the wart was gone. It was gone. I said, Dad? Yep. I said, Dad, where's your wart? He said, oh, you noticed that, did you? I said, yes, where's the wart? He said, well, I didn't think I was going to have to tell you, but I'm not your real father. I said, well, what? He said, yeah, sorry you had to find out this way, but I'm not your real father. Think you knew a lot about kids? Not so much. And so he said, you know, I'm pinch hitting for him. I said, well, who are you, though? He said, I'm your father's twin brother. I said, how do I know? He said, I don't have a wart, right? Oh, had to be true. Had to be true. So I said, well, when is my daddy coming back? Now remember, sick child, mad other child, very sick mother, and my father carrying out diapers and garbage every moment of the day and night. And he said, your father has gone on a long vacation to a warm beach with lots and lots of sun and no mosquitoes. I said, when is my daddy coming back? Oh, it's hard to tell. I kept my eye on him. He said, well, you know, a man needs a break. I said, yeah. Can you prove you're my dad's twin brother? He said, yes, of course. The ultimate proof. I know your father's middle name. I said, what is it? He said, Henry. Well, it had to be true then. Who else would know? And then I remembered that I was still in the car with a stranger, and so I started easing and sliding over to the door, thinking I would leap out. At least it would be a courageous death. I popped up the button and started to move close to the handle. He said, "Stop that." I said, "You sound like my dad." He said, "Yes, good enough." And so all the whole time home, it wasn't long, but it was long to me. He said, "Yeah, you know, your dad and I were real close." I said, "Yeah? Yeah, we loved each other. We were siblings, and we loved each other." I said, "Really?" He said, "Oh, yeah. I could tell you stories." I said, when was the part about Dad coming back?" He said, "Oh, it's unknown. He'll come back when the wind takes him." Metaphors are sometimes lost on children who are terrified of their lives. And I said, "Does Mommy know?" He said, "Oh, no. No, she doesn't know. Oh, no." And it's going to be our secret, isn't it? My father seeing his life passing right before his eyes when my mother found out. I said, "Well, can you keep a secret?" I said, "Yes, I can." He said, "Okay, you better keep this one." What a burden. So I got back home. And just as I was getting out of the car, my dad came around to open the door. That was a long time ago, kids. As I was leaving, he caught a look for the first time at my face, because we were like, he said, whoa, sister, you didn't believe that." I said, "Well, kind of, in a way." He said, "Oh, sister, I was just kidding you. You know I'm your real daddy. Come on. You know that." I said, "Yeah? Where's the wart?" He said, "Well, it just disappeared." I said, "Uh-huh. Sure." He said, "We'll just go in and we'll just tell Mommy that we had a little joke, won't we?" I said, "Uh-huh. We'll see." So when I became older, and I knew my dad, he was a lovely, truly a lovely man and a lovely dad, if a little distant. You may have had this father. Loving and kind and demonstrative, but just a little bit distant. So sometimes I think, wonder where it went. Maybe he is a stranger. I think he kind of was, getting used to kids. And then I became a teenager. Now, that was a hard moment for a lot of fathers, and particularly hard for mine. He didn't realize there was a part where somebody else was going to come and take you away. And I had a very bad record of boyfriends. It's a little like our daughter. We used to say, she'd say, "I have a new boyfriend." We'd say, "Does he have any priors?" She'd say, "Well, no." I said, "Well, heaven be praised." Yeah, I brought home the most peculiar combination of human beings that has ever crossed the genetic line. My dad was steadfast. He never took the bait. When one would come up the walk, he'd just raise a newspaper sitting on the porch. Didn't look right or left. And then he'd lower it and he'd say, "What's your name?" "Oh, my name is Josh." He said, "Yeah. What does your daddy do?" He said, "Well, he works at a factory." "How long has he been there?" He said, "I don't know, quite a while." He said, "Is he going to get up the corporate ladder?" Kid would say, "I think it's time to go home." So after he'd tortured them, And then one boyfriend, particularly difficult, with enough grease in his hair to dress a salad. And he was driving an enormous motorcycle. Oh, it was fabulous. My father said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "That's my new boyfriend." He said, "Uh-huh, how did I know that?" And he started to walk out the door. Now, my father was lawn proud. He loved that sea of green, closely clipped and lovingly maintained all the edges. And so my new boyfriend, who did have a prior as it turned out, my new boyfriend came on Valentine's Day, promising, and he started across the street on Marshall Foe Street where we lived, and he gunned it, and he scorched out a perfect heart on my father's lawn. Aren't you ready to kill him, parents? My father took out for him like Grant took Richmond. And didn't catch up with him, and now I wonder, who was he looking for? Was he going toward the perp, or was he running away from a girl who looked suspiciously like she was about to become a woman? Dangerous. One day, I chose another kind of beau. He went to my church, Presbyterian church. He was a very nice boy and terribly, terribly smart. Terribly smart. And it was terribly smart. He's the kind of kid who couldn't resist telling you of his vast accumulation of knowledge riches. It hung on him like saddlebags. And he loved to show off to girlfriends, of course. My father said, "Are you going out with him?" I said, "Yes, he's asked me out." He said, "Good. Sounds like a nice boy, and like his parents." His name was Russell Steele. And Mr. and Mrs. Steele went to our church, so perfect. And so I got ready. Remember, I wasted 6 months on this boy. 6 months for nothing. So I got ready. But getting ready when you are a young woman in the 50s, we're not talking hopping on a little bit of makeup and pulling up some leggings. We're talking a 24-hour situation here. As you well know, women. First, you have to decide what you're going to wear, and then you have to get the implements of female destruction. Like the living bra. Remember that one? I wear a dying bra now. And then there's that girdle, which at 15 years old was not an ounce of fat on me. Somehow I had to put on to stop myself from flowing up. Why did we wear them? I don't know, but you had to wear them. And you remember girdles, anybody? Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, they have garters, and then you pinch them together in your little stockings. That is the closest thing to flesh-eating bacteria never invented. And I know what I'm talking about. So my mother came in, and she said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, I'm ready." My grandmother came in to help out. It was in a long silver tube, about this long. And you had to pull that sucker out. It was waiting to eat your flesh. Pull, 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 pull. It was solid rubber, no lining at all. The Playtex girdle. Remember it? Yeah, it's still alive? Mm-hmm. And so I'd lie down on the bed, and my mother would start at one end, and my grandmother would start at the other. And they would haul that puppy up for hours, it seemed like. Hours. And then I'd put on my horrendous stockings and button the torture chamber part, and then I'd get up to get dressed. And of course, you know this. You're supposed to fast for 5 days before you go on the date. Oh, of course. You know that. So, of course, I was a little hungry, but also Russell was coming, you know. So I put on my clothes. I was wearing 4-inch spikes. I know, stupid. And also about 10 petticoats. Remember those? All starched, with a big waistband blobbed over, like very attractive, blobbed over like this. My mother said, "Okay, time to walk." I said, "Okay." So they lifted me off the bed, and I took a little stroll. Perfect, my mother said, perfect. So I went out to find Russell. He was there telling my father about the periodic table. 6 months I wasted on this guy. So he said, "Well, we're going to on a double date." I said, "What?" "It's the first date." He said, "Yeah, we're on a double date because it's my birthday." I said, "Oh, great. Who are we double dating with?" He said, "Mommy and Daddy." I know it. I should have left him on the stoop, but no. I was too ready. So we went to what's called Pontchartrain Beach. It even has its own song, or used to. It's gone now. At the beach, at the beach, at the beautiful beach, you'll have fun every day of the week. You'll ride the thrilling rides, laugh till you split your sides at Big Finish, Pontchartrain Beach. I like that. So I got right in the car. My father had lowered the newspaper and said a little prayer, and we got in the car. There were Mommy and Daddy, Mr. and Mrs. Steele in the front seat. And we whizzed right over. They were dressed to kill. He had a hat on, a fedora, and she had a little Jackie Kennedy, sort of a little hat with a little scoop in it and a net going to the beach, you know. And then there was us in the back seat. Russell leaned over and he said, "Do you know the periodic table?" 6 months, ladies. So we got to the beach, and we were, you know, ready to have fun, kind of. And so we went on all the rides. We're not talking sissy rides here. We're talking killer rides. The first one was the one, a tilt-a-whirl, you remember that one? Where you're going one direction and the ride's going the other? Yeah, that will be a hard job to do, to not get kind of sick, but I didn't. And then we got off, we went to another one, some terrible ride, and a third awful ride, and then we had a little dinner at the beach. 5 days now, waiting to eat. So we had the usual, corn dogs, 2, cotton candy, 3, a lot of salsa, even in those days, right? To say nothing of the cookies that are about as big as your face, and other dreadful things which tasted fabulous. Russell said, "I don't eat that kind of food myself. Mother raised me differently." 6 months. So then we got on the final ride before we could, I don't know, do something else. And it was that very, very special ride. The one which is a cylinder. Don't get ahead of me. And you get in, and you plaster yourself, which is easy for me, against the wall, and then it spins around like a flame, and then the bottom falls right out. Yeah, have you been on that ride? Who's done that? Oh, you poor devils, I know it. And we did. We spun around. The bravest people, when they got on, they turned themselves upside down, did a headstand, so that when it fell, it looked like they were fabulously brave. Not Russie. Russie took this occasion on the other side to say, "Do you know what this is?" I said, "I think so." He said, "No, you don't." 6 months. He said, "This is called centrifugal force." It was real chick bait, wasn't he? Real chick bait. I got off and I was feeling perhaps a tiny bit unwell. And my father had said to me when I left, "Now be sure you have a nickel in your purse." I said, "Oh, Dad," which is the way you say affectionately, "Hello, Daddy." But he put one in there. So I was fine, I had a little nickel for nothing. And then we went on a ride after that one, and after our consumption of every junk food known to humanity, the Ferris wheel. It's supposed to be a tame ride, right? Doesn't jump you up and down, just goes up and down, and up and down. And after the first revolution, I began to feel just a touch unwell. No big deal. The second revolution, I thought, this might not go well. And by the third time, I could hardly speak. I was getting so sick. Right in front of us, in the little gondola below us, was Mr. and Mrs. Steele. You know her little hat with the reservoir? Mm-hmm. You don't even know where I'm going. And then, Mr. Steele, he removed his fedora. Did I tell you he was bald? No? Well, he was. And about the time we were descending, and they were right below us. Well, let's just say that until that moment, I did not know that the word projectile was attached to the human body. At all. But oh, it is. And I must have yacked up my dreadful load of horrors in my stomach for what seemed like 25 minutes. Directly onto the hat, and she gave a delicate little shiver, right onto his bald head, and me from top to shoes. And Russell, 6 months, he just sidled over a little, not to be seen or touch me. We got to the bottom, and I got off in such humiliation I can't begin to tell you. I know you know. So Mrs. Steele said, "Honey, looks like you should clean yourself right up." I said, "Okay, we'll see you out here. We're going to go on another ride for Russie's birthday." So I was in there doing the best I could, nothing you really do, with a lot of towels and a great deal of prayer. And I was standing in the need prayer. And then I came out still stenchy and soaked. And there were the Steeles. And Mrs. Steele said, "We're so sorry what happened to you, MaryGay. I think it's time for you to go home." I said, "Yes, I think it is. We'll stay here, though. Russie's birthday is not finished. I think you should call." You got it. So, dripping and sloughing off things, I walked to the pay phone and the phone booth. Long time ago, kids. I got in the phone booth, opened the door, pulled down that little seat, and looked at the big book that swings that way, but I knew my number. And so I called, put in my nickel, and I called Evergreen 4445. And it rung once. And my father said, "Sister, you all right?" I said, "Daddy, I'd like to come home now." He said, "I'll be right there." Hung up the phone. He must have, I can't imagine how fast he drove, but he was there in like 4 split minutes. And I was down at the curb trying to avoid all other humans, and Mr. and Mrs. Steele were gaily waving up at the top, saying, "Hello, Victor, so nice to see you." He said, "Thanks." And he opened the door for me, and he walked up to me, and he picked me up in his arms. And he walked to the car, and he put me in that car. And he said, "Sister, I like those shoes." And then he closed the door, and he said, "I'll just talk to Brother Steele and Sister Steele tomorrow in church." And then he drove me home. He didn't know much about kids. Tried his hardest, as we all do, but he just didn't know. He had to learn on the J-O-B, just like us. But no matter how strange his tricks, how amazing his forbearance against a teenage girl ready to destroy the family, my father always brought me home. Thank you.